All right, friends, today we're going to run through bivariate correlation, which is really one of my absolute favorite things to do in SPSS. Just a real easy procedure and can tell you a whole lot about a data set real quickly. Very straightforward. So let's jump into it. Let me go ahead and explain this to you in a way that might help you with regard to your assignments. So, for example, I might ask you a question like, what is the relationship between price and horsepower? Right? Very simple question. What I want to highlight in this case is I'm asking you, what is the relationship? That word relationship is a key word that you'll need to focus on. If you see something that says relationship, you should think, I need to run a correlation. Relationship is like a trigger word for that sort of thing, particularly in the assignments that I've given you. So keep that in mind. If you see that, that's going to be something that you want to follow. Relationship equals correlation. So that's our question we're going to chase. And if we start to analyze, or we start almost all of it, real straightforward, we're just going to scroll down to correlate, right? So it's a bivariate correlation, and conveniently enough, it's listed as bivariate, right? So we'll click on that. And the question is, once again, what is the relationship between price and horsepower? So I'm literally going to click on price, move it over with the arrow, okay? And then I'll click on horsepower, move it over with the arrow. And that's it. What you can do, like if you're inclined, once again, a comfort thing, but you can actually just move it back and forth. So horsepower, I can just drag and drop, like so, and it's just fine, right? Don't need to worry about, oh, I have to do it this way or that way, whatever you're most comfortable with. Likewise, too, it doesn't matter if I put them in reverse order, horsepower and price in thousands, or price in thousands and horsepower. The data will still produce the same outcome, and your answer will still be correct. So just want to let you know there, you're in good hands. So all you have to do is hit those two things, and just hit OK. The data comes back very straightforward, so what I'm going to have you highlight, I tend to look at this just top part, right? So you'll notice that this is a mirror image of itself. So it's price in thousands and horsepower, or horsepower and price in thousands. But you'll notice these values and these values are identical. Okay. What might throw people off, sometimes they're like, well, where does this one come in? What does that one mean? Well, in that case, it's price in thousands correlated with price in thousands. So something correlated with itself, of course, is going to produce a R value of 1, right? Because it's perfectly correlated. Anywho, let's move on. So price in thousands, what we're seeing here is price in thousands horsepower correlates at a 0.840. Hopefully you've already had a look through the chapter on correlation to make this a bit easier, but I'll give you a crash course. This top number, when we're running correlations, this top number here is going to be the R value, the correlation coefficient. I know it's labeled here as Pearson correlation. It's because SPSS is being specific about the type of correlation. Nonetheless, it is a correlation coefficient, or lowercase r, as the textbook denotes it, right? When we look at this, there's two things that this value tells us. It tells us whether or not the relationship is direct or indirect, and it tells us how strong the relationship is, right? So if we look here, right, this is a positive value. It's positive 0.840. You know it's positive because there's no negative symbol next to it. If it's a positive number, you know automatically that the correlation will be direct. If it's a negative number, you'll know the correlation is indirect, and I'll show you an example of this in just a moment. At 0.840, this is approaching 1. 1 is the highest that this thing goes. So the higher the number, or the further the number is away from 0, essentially, the stronger the correlation. And some general guidelines, I would say, for R values, anything between 0.0 and 0.3 is going to be weak. 0.3 to 0.5 would be moderate. And anything greater than 0.5 is going to be strong. Okay? So there's your R value. And there's your p-value. This second value here is significance, designated by the p-value. There's actually a separate lecture on significance. We'll talk about more later on. But for the purpose of this assignment, I would ask you to provide me both the R value here and the p-value here. For the p-value, what you need to know is it is significant if the p-value is less than 0.05. Okay? If it is 0.05 or greater, it is a not significant correlation. Okay, that's all that this value tells you. It's significant or it's not, and it's not sort of, kind of, barely, almost. It is binary. It is either significant or it's not, below 0.05 or not. Let me just real quick run you another example so you can see what an indirect correlation looks like. So if I go correlate bivariate, and in this case, let's do price in thousands and sales in thousands. So obviously a car that's more expensive will sell fewer, right? So what we see here is a negative correlation. The R value is negative, or indirect in this case. And notice it's weaker too. I've still got this other one open. So this is 0.840, so that's quite a strong correlation. In this case, we have a negative correlation, indirect correlation, and it's moderate at best. It's just above that threshold I gave you for moderate, right? What I want to point out before I conclude this little segment here, you can have a strong indirect correlation. Strength and direction are unrelated to each other. Direction simply has to do with it being negative or positive. The absolute value of the number is what determines the strength. So just kind of keep that in mind as you go to interpret these examples and the assignments that have been assigned.